Hello, anybody? Anybody coming through? Let's. Can't see anybody just yet, but hopefully you'll be through. And I got a few coming through now. So we've got the chat as well. Fantastic. Hello, Susan. Oh, how nice. After Leeds, it was. I was a bit lonely. And Mitzi. Oh yeah, Robin having a knee surgery, isn't she? So hopefully she's getting back on her feet within a short period of time. Tish and Dawn are here. Hi, and Catherine. Linda, I hope you are well. And Diane as well. Nice to speak to you the other day, Diane. Glad you could make it onto the tour. And so, I'd say it's lovely to have the chat back after Leeds. It was a bit disconcerting doing it kind of by myself to Into the Void. Goodness knows where the conversation's been going, fainting goats, but perhaps it's better I don't know. Good, I'm glad you can see and hear me okay, Dawn. I think we're okay for time, which is good. And just get my notes up. So, yeah. Don't exactly know what we're going to do today. The first time I've been in York, really, in the last sort of couple of weeks. So, I'm just going to go out and see what's what and who's about. And we will take it from there. And hello, Kimberly. It's lovely to have you here in York. And Emily and Carol as well. Lovely to see you. So we're kind of so fair. The light's starting to go down now. So 10-15 minutes into the tour, we should be in a kind of lovely twilighty space where the lights will twinkle and look magical, and we will be able to enjoy all that Yuletide atmosphere. So actually, no goats in the garden. Okay, right. I'm just going to have to say okay to that. I've got no other words. But thank you for letting me know. Laurie JH is here. That's good to see you, Laurie. And we love a twinkle. Yeah, we do. And sadly, of course, Mark's not so well today. I feel like I've got a sniffle, but nothing like the last cold I had. Hopefully it won't get anything like that. But I just had Mark had to pull today, so sorry to hear that. So I was hoping that Mark would be my sterling warm-up guy to get you all in a festive furor. But it looks like I'm going to have to do the spade work myself and start off the kind of ground upwards. So David's with us as well, though, David Howarth. And kind of, hopefully, if you're not already feeling festive, we'll see what we can do. So I thought I'd start in a slightly different area of York today. We've been a couple of times, but it's not our regular haunt. So I thought we'd start over here. And I'll show you where here is in just a minute. And I'm going to try and mix it up a little bit today. I want to show you some of the Christmas nutcrackers, find those. I'll look at some lights, some shop windows, some of the Christmas market, and just sort of see what seems like a worthy inclusion on a Christmassy jaunt around York. So, yeah, missing Mark. Yeah, we all do. Obviously, we wish him well. He's back on his feet in no time. He is, of course, a sterling guide and a good friend to so many of us. So I think we are on about 4 o'clock. So without further ado, or to-do, or whatever that expression is, let me say hello, good afternoon, good evening, welcome wherever you are. You're joining me here in York. Today we are going to have a wander around the city to try and get in a kind of Christmas vibe, really. Kind of see what's happening, see what these kind of show you, and talk a little bit about Christmas and traditions. And I know you're kind of always interested, so I've picked out some new bits and pieces, some tidbits, as you might say, that we can talk about. But let us start by flicking around, because we are starting just by, the reason we came down here, is one of the nutcrackers. So I understand these are nutcrackers of the world this year, and judging by this guy's hat, I'm saying it's Polska, which is Polish. So I don't know if this relates to kind of the sort of various communities in York. Obviously, alongside the kind of traditional sort of indigenous population, obviously the Polish, Eastern European. I'll perhaps find out as we kind of go around. But I thought I'd bring you in here and have a look at this splendid chap first. And just in case you don't know, by the way, the origin of these nutcrackers comes from Germany, an area called the Ore Mountains of Germany. And in the kind of late 17th century, their ability to make their money from mining, their income from mining, was just kind of severely depleted. And so many of them turned towards woodworking as a way of, if you like, transitioning from a mining-based industry to a kind of craft and artisan-based industry. And it's said that they did these kind of these military figures to kind of mock the leadership kind of cadre of that part of Poland at the time. Now, these ones are kind of finely friendly, but of course, as you'll know, you get lots of the nutcrackers. They've got that kind of fierce, square jaw and teeth, so you can imagine that they are something of a pastiche. But sort of fairly early on, people decided that they were kind of good luck charms, and so by the early years of the 19th century, they'd spread sort of extensively all the way across Europe, and now, of course, they're kind of a global phenomenon. But interestingly, as I say, from what the history tells us, is they derived from this one remote area of Germany, the Ore Mountains, O-R-E Mountains, and as I say, being forced to transition away from mining and extraction into new industries. We got the birth of the Nutcracker. And of course, it then led to famous ballet and everything that kind of goes with it, classical music and so forth. So, such a part of our Christmas now. Always interesting, I think, to find out where it comes from. Yeah, Dawn, I'm pleased as well. Without the teeth, I think it kind of works nicely. But the place I want to show you, I'm quite sure how many times we've been here, but it's a marvellous sign of York. The bile beans, and of course this has been repainted over the years a number of times, but it is, pretty old, certainly about, I think 100 years old, something like that in the region. And it tells you that nightly bile beans keep you healthy, bright-eyed and slim. And you probably don't need to know what bile beans are to kind of guess that it kind of keeps you regular. Everything's kind of working as it should do, without going into more details. But I thought it was a good place for us to talk about one of the famous and kind of really quite interesting little quotes of Christmas in Catalonia, in Spain, which are the defecating logs. The Caganes, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but C-A-G-A-N-E-R. And in Catalonia, so that's the area of Spain, that's all separatist area called Barcelona, historically the capital of Catalonia. They've got this kind of humorous and sort of slightly bizarre twist with what they call the Tio de Nadal, or the Cajagatio, which is the defecating log. So it's quite literally a Christmas log, and kind of families will kind of make up a very basic Christmas log. And there may be a guy on the market doing that. I saw last year, year before. So I thought, let's try and tell the story of some of the things we might see on the market. So these Christmas logs, quite literally, are sort of cut wood, a cute little face, and basically there's a hole in the middle of them. They're hollowed out. And then what you do is you fill these full of like dried fruit and nuts, like the sort of things that we associate with eating at Christmas. And basically then come and you put a blanket over it for kind of warmth. So each day, you'd have this little something with your kids, you're feeding the Christmas log. And then on Christmas Eve, the entire family is going to beat the log with sticks. And they sing a song which translates as, "If you don't crap well, I'll beat you with a stick." So basically, it's not at all dissimilar in that respect then to the, what do you call the Mexican horse thing that they beat and the sweets fall out? That'll come to me in a minute. Or is it just South Central American, not Mexican? But anyway, that, very kind of similar to that. So it basically gives up the goodies, as you might say, on Christmas Eve. And it seems, of course, a very bizarre thing to associate, Christmas and poo. At the end of the day, why would you kind of want to celebrate Christmas and poo? Well, it is a strange idea, admittedly, but this is where it kind of helps to have a kind of primer. We've talked a lot, over the years on various Christmas tours, of course, about the origins of Christmas being midwinter harvest prayers, basically. Long before the Christians got in on the act, these midwinter festivals were about prayers for a harvest. And of course, what do we need for a harvest? We need fertility. Where does fertility come from? In the basis possible sense, really, it's poo, isn't it? It's manure, right? It's the recycling, as you might say. So consequently, this sort of slightly eccentric, idea of celebrating poo. And so they have these little pooing figures. If you see a Spanish, you go to Catalonia, and you see a kind of crib, with the usual kind of Joseph, Mary, the shepherds and so forth, the donkeys. In and amongst that, generally speaking, you'll see a rather cheeky little boy with his pants sort of pulled down. Of course, going about his business. And so this is kind of just part of that Catalonian thing. But as I say, it's got its roots and its sense come from the idea of Christmas, kind of being midwinter, around the planting time, fertilization, and all about birth, rebirth, the earth, renewal, and those sorts of things. So as I say, it is a bit hard to comprehend, perhaps not that difficult to understand why it hasn't really caught on so much elsewhere. But of course, the Spanish are the Spanish. And of course, they also kind of get quite political as well. So those that have been in the news over the years often kind of caught with their pants down quite literally, as you might say, in scandals, one kind of another. Often they are portrayed and they become the kind of bestseller caganas of the year, as you might say. So it's a way of kind of humiliating. So not dissimilar, I suppose, to the Nutcracker that was sort of poking fun at the authoritarian military ruling class. So also the Cagana, can be poking fun at those that have fallen foul of the publicity machine in Spain sort of over the year. So we'll look out. We may see some today. I don't know, but I just thought it would be fun to do so. And you can think how Christmassy it is to think about defecation and good Christmas. So there we go. So I believe that there is another one of the see the lights coming down there. I believe we've got another one of the Nutcrackers just coming around the corner, and then we're going to head sort of towards the sort of centre, walk up Stonegate and towards Christmas markets and see what's what, who's doing what. But I thought as the lights coming down, it's just nice to remember that tour. Okay, fantastic. Can we ever? Right, good. So have we got another one? I think we have. So here it is. So let us now see if I'm kind of anywhere even halfway right about identity. Then was it? Okay, right now. So we've quite clearly now got Indian mentality. A crappy Christmas, absolutely Dawn. A crappy Christmas is the best kind of Christmas there is. So don't forget, if that's the kind of Christmas that you normally experience, then you're kind of right on the money in terms of your ability to kind of drive next year's food stocks. So it looks like this is Indian. It's got the Indian wheel, flag of industry there on his hat. So again, there is an Indian population in York, of course, associated traditionally now with obviously the university and so forth. So as I say, I'm not sure if this is simply, York's links to the world, or it's about the population here. I should have checked that really, shouldn't I? And kind of looked it up. But he's a splendid chap with a kind of rather orangey. He feels going to be on sunbed for rather too long, doesn't he? But of course, orange is part of their sort of flag colours. I thought at first when I came around the corner, I thought, is it Ireland? Because obviously there's a sizable Irish community, but no, it is the same colours, but it is the portrayal. And so we've got down here on his belly, look, the Taj Mahal, which is a rather splendid rendering. And for those that are worried, I'm not sure if we're going to see him today, but the one that was thrown in the river, he was rescued by our riverboat police that are going after drunk people in the river, and he was saved. He's been dried off, he's been styled, and he's back up. So don't worry, he is back in situ. And if we get a chance, we will. Look at a tiger on his arm. Let's have a look. He's got a tattoo of a tiger. It's not a very fierce-looking tiger, is it? But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That is definitely a tiger. I think some of a lotus flower. It may have been another one that you saw. I think he's got lotus on that side. I think we've got another rendering of the Taj Mahal on the back. And then we'll come around this side and see. Yeah, again, he is... can't think who could possibly be talking about Laurie. But there's definitely a Trumpesque tones, isn't there, in that skin palette. So there we go. So anyway, he's back and safe. So let us go and we'll have a walk around the Minster. We'll walk up Stonegate and... how lovely. So all the vans are coming at 4 o'clock. So I'll just try and stay out of the way here and just give you some York prettiness. And so let's tell you something else about Christmas. So have you heard of Yule goats? So this is a Scandinavian thing. So of course, so much of our sort of Christmas really is a direct jamboree, isn't it? It's a jumble of various traditions. And of course, places like York, where we've had Vikings, we've had Romans, we've had the Normans, the French, we've had everybody here. They've had a tendency to leave a bit of their own kind of cultures and ideas kind of behind. So much of our, what might call, we think of as now sort of traditional Christmas, it's just a complete mashup, isn't it? We talked about in Leeds a little bit, didn't we? Anything we do with kind of greenery and Santa Claus is the kind of Nordic stuff. You've got the kind of pre-Christian stuff, the kind of Saturnalia, the time of year, the festivities, the gift giving, and so for the lighting of the lights is the kind of Roman stuff. And then obviously you've got the kind of Christian sort of elements within it. So you've got all these different sort of fundamental elements. But one of them that was kind of interesting, that hasn't really spread so much, is the Yule goat. So we've got Yule logs over here, and Yule, of course, is a sort of term that's pretty interchangeable with Christmas, Yuletide. But in Scandinavia, the Yule goat was originally believed to kind of roam villages before Christmas. And the job of the Yule goat was to ensure that the holy preparations were done correctly. So it's a kind of arbiter of kind of Christmas quality. Like stubborn as a goat, I suspect. So probably that's kind of good reason why goats were chosen, because they kind of have a very low tolerance, don't they, to kind of admitting leeway either way. So a goat would come from village to village and make sure that everything was being done to prepare for this great Christmas feast and festival and fun and everything. So over time, it kind of evolved into the bringer of gifts, much like Santa Claus. So in effect, you then start to get a merge. And as it's so interesting, whether you're talking about, established faith, or you're talking about sort of pagan, or you're just talking about sort of folk and culture and legend, is how these things have a habit of merging together. And so what becomes, what starts off as a goat, before so long is starting to merge with a reindeer that's kind of pulling a sleigh and is bringing presents. So you kind of got all this kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The coming together, quite the word is escaping from it. Let's have a look round by the front of the minster. And so it becomes a kind of Christmas gift giver. And eventually kind of Father Christmas sort of takes over. But in Scandinavia itself, straw Yule goats are still popular tree decorations. And in some areas, you've got these kind of large straw goats. If anybody's been to any Scandinavian villages this time of year, they are often very, very sizable indeed, the straw goats. And they're kind of part of the kind of festive display. So much like you might expect to see, kind of a nativity scene and a manger and so forth. Merging, that's a good word, yeah. And there's a place called Gavle in Sweden that they have annually the biggest one every year. The trouble is, unfortunately, it gets burned down by pranksters every year as well. So it's sort of becoming a bit of a nuisance. I'm just going to show you the lit trees up here because they look rather kind of special. Then we'll head down towards into the Christmas market area. But the trees up here, I think, always very nice in front of the Minster. So anybody recently joined? Is KCM on? Did I say? It's lovely to have you on here in York. The light's just starting to go down now, so hopefully it's starting to get a bit of a kind of festive vibe going. It's always difficult, of course, in the daylight to sort of get the impact of the lights, but I think they are starting now. Unfortunately, the roadworks are an ever-present bloody nuisance in York, but we'll try and focus you away from the roadworks. And reindeers are they're very different. It's more in the telling of the stories, I think, Tish, that things sort of come together. That we end up going, oh gosh, essentially it's the same thing, don't we? They're being portrayed differently on cards and so on. I mean, pigs as well, Scandis, really, really important in Scandinavia because, and this goes back to the Viking era, like the fatted pig, the Christmas ham, all that. It's a Viking tradition, fatted pig, men coming back from wherever they were, whether they were kind of raiding or farming or trading or whatever they were doing, other parts of the world, they're back home for Christmas, and the fatted pig is slaughtered the Christmas boar. So consequently, it's if you go to Scandinavia at Christmas again, you'll see a lot of depictions of pigs. Isn't that looking delightfully festive? I'll come around and give you a shot at the front of the Minster. And with the Christmas capybara. Right. I hope that's giving you some festive cheer. And in York, I think they tend to be, if you kind of less is more. Having kind of seen what Leeds does, we don't tend to compete with that, which is fine. Let Leeds be Leeds and York be York. So you don't tend to see, displays that kind of dazzle. But I do think that you get something that is very simple and classy and elegant. That sort of thing, I think, works just beautifully. It doesn't need to be any more sort of ostentatious when you've got the Minster to play with in the background. You can just kind of you don't want to gild the lily. That's that phrase, isn't it? You don't want to gild the lily. So I think it kind of works nicely. Less can be more in this. I'm just going to put my gloves on because it's definitely coming in colder, which is nice. It reminds us it's getting a kind of Christmassy weather. So I hope we're all doing well. We are fine and dandy and enjoying your time in York here. I'm going to put my gloves on for my hands freeze over. And it is nice, isn't it? Sorry, my hands the gimbal just float from side to side. I just put my gloves on. That is the downside of gimbals. I won't do that. Or perhaps it's the operators, but anyway. Let's skirt over that and see if we can't go and see some more Christmas. Let's all go down there. Where should we go? Let's go down Stonegate and see what's happening down there. Gradually we're going to walk towards Parliament Street, which is where the Christmas huts are and stuff. But I was hoping the light would get down. Daunting, 1.5 weeks to go till Christmas. Mulled wine. Give us a straw pour. Worry on mulled wine. I do like it, but like one glass is enough, or one cup is enough. That kind of satiates me. I'm not wanting to drink lots of it. But how about other people? Is mulled wine part of your Christmas? Do let me know where you stand on the kind of mulled wine issue. I think it's lovely, and I really enjoy it. But as I say, one is just perfect. Two, and I'm leaving it. I'm not going to bother sort of finishing it. So sadly, these bollards now sign of the times. So there's a safety protective measure for us and hostile vehicles, but nonetheless, at least they're more discreet than they have been in kind of years gone by. So it's pretty busy to say this is a Monday. Hello, Tarek. It's pretty busy to say it is a Monday, which is good. But as Dawn says, we're a week and a half out now, aren't we, from Christmas, which is crazy. So if you I don't mean to sort of do this in any sort of, but if you're going to be missing anybody this Christmas, and missing their absence, of course, our friend Sue from the community recently departed. You might be kind of sympathetic to a tradition they have in Portugal known as Consoda. I don't know if you know any sort of Consoda. A bit like consoling, but Consoda, C-O-N-S-O-D-A, Consoda. And it's a Christmas feast that takes place in the morning of Christmas Day. And the thing that's special about it is at this feast, extra places are left for Alminhas a Penar, which is called the souls of the dead. So quite literally, places are laid at the table for the departed. It's a way of honouring at Christmas the family members that have been departed, often because they're fairly recently departed rather than the very, very kind of long-term deceased. But I think it's a lovely idea. Obviously, of course, it's a Catholic country, but even so, it's not really Orthodox kind of Catholicism, and many kind of leave crumbs for the dead on the hearth. And this is kind of actually an ancient tradition of offering seeds to the souls of the dead. So again, you're really kind of fumbling around trying to link this into Orthodox Catholicism. It really is the sort of thing that the Vatican would kind of frown upon. But tradition has a way of kind of embedding itself, into culture, that makes it very, very difficult for Orthodoxy to kind of deal with. So the belief is, that, of course, that in offering seed to the souls, that they in return will give bounteous harvest. So again, you've got this ancient sort of pre-Christian focus on the harvest, replenishment, that at the point where in the shortest days, where it's cold, where the land is frozen and unforgiving, that you add bounty in through your Christmas celebrations by coming together and honouring the dead. This new life comes forward, this bounty comes forward in food, which I think is kind of really nice and really cool. And as I say, it is one of the recurring motifs. As you know, I'm very interested in Christmas. I've made that kind of one of my subject areas, Christmas, over the years. And I find it fascinating of no matter how the cultures are sort of defined, how many places, destinations we might find that seemingly have very, very little links. These sort of foundation stories have these recurring ideas coming over and over again. So I do think that's kind of very, very interesting. It's almost like there's something universal, really, about the way that we celebrate this time of year. It's kind of coming together, friends and family, coming closer. I appreciate not everybody has got the friends and family close to them, but those that can, and thankfully our video calls and so forth, even distance, doesn't prevent us from that kind of proximity, does it? Of bringing those that are close to us, sort of closer still, sharing food and drink when we can, gifts, and celebrating the bonds that are going to hold us together as we prepare for another year. So I do think that it's kind of a nice kind of idea. So Daisy wants some cherry snaps, somebody. Now I think that we've got, before you head to the Bristol markets, I think if we head down to Barley Hall, I think we're going to find that there is another nutcracker. And after this, I'm not sure how many nutcrackers we can do because they're not lit up, obviously. So it depends on kind of where they are. And as ever with the nutcrackers, they are going to spread far and wide across the city. So if we come into an area where I know there is one, we'll take a little sort of detour to find one. But rather than sort of going on a very, very long, winding route to find one. So here we go. And this chap certainly appears to be very much celebrating the breeches. And of course, it's our Barley Hall. So we're up at Barley Hall. I'm sure many of you will kind of recognise we've been here lots of times. Last time we were up here, I think we were looking at the ghost up on the balcony. So, of course, the red, white and blue is a composite, isn't it? It's a number of flags and identities, isn't it? The red cross there of St George, white and red of England, blue and white of Scotland, and then kind of red and white of Northern Ireland. So we've got a kind of a range. Welsh, the Welsh, for some reason, aren't represented really, are they? I mean, I suppose they could say red dragon, but they don't seem to be represented. But then I think they're speaking of principality around the country, which is a bit unfair. But anyway, there we go. So we've got Big Ben, or the clock of Big Ben. I think Big Ben's the clock rather than the tower. Over there, we've got the Giant's Causeway here. We've got Northern Ireland being represented. I think Stefan took you guys to the Giant's Causeway a year or two back. It's a surprise when you get there because it's tiny. It looks enormous on the photos, and it's not. It's really small. There we've got a dragon. So quite clearly, this guy is, whoever the artist is, was very, very keen to kind of get across the fact that we had multiple nations. And I'm not quite sure what in particular the church tower is there. Is it Edinburgh? Is it the Scott Monument on Princess Street in Edinburgh? I think it might be. I think that's what it might be. Down here on his shins, we've got the thistle, of course, of Scotland. We've got the daffodil of Wales, and we've got the English rose. So there we go. You can imagine the thieves lurking in the snick away, waiting for the next prey. Absolutely, you can, and of course, in years gone by, no sane person would have gone down here unaccompanied. Anybody with a purse would certainly have wanted an escort, to kind of pass this way. They wouldn't have been sort of relaxed and chilled about coming this way. You're absolutely right. So, talking about Christmas chickens. Now, what could be more traditional than KFC on Christmas Day? Now, some of you might shake your heads at that point, but in doing so, all you're doing to me is you're proving that you're not Japanese. Because Japan in Christmas, it's less about religion. It's not really their religion and culture, is it? Yeah? It's about festive fun. And thanks to a brilliant bit of marketing, and also the fact that these guys have tiny kitchens, tiny ovens, live in the smallest apartments ever in Tokyo, eating out for Christmas is a big thing. And in the 1970s, KFC decided to kind of present themselves as like the number one thing that American families did on Christmas Day. So consequently, for many Japanese people, the traditional Christmas dinner is, believe it or not, is Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now, if anybody's been to Japan at Christmas, then please tell me if I'm wrong, because my research has ever come from a number of sources, but I've seen lots of photographs to kind of back this up. So it's in the 70s to say that KFC kind of this wildly successful sort of campaign. They call it Kentucky for Christmas. Hard to believe. Sort of positioning, say, fried chicken as the ultimate Christmas meal. Instead of not really reckoning on the fact that turkey wasn't involved. It's chicken, it's not turkey. So pretty strange, but there we go. But as I say, it got purchased in Japan, and it's now the traditional American Yuletide feast to such a degree that you have to book months ahead. If you actually want to sit in the store, in the regular KFC on Christmas Day, you are literally, it's like booking a Michelin restaurant. It is fine dining. Absolutely, Dawn's got it, yeah. So they'll order their bucket meals, the kind of takeaway, the big bucket things, weeks in advance in order to make sure that they're going to get them on Christmas Day. So, how mad is that? It just shows that Christmas really can be anything to anybody all the time. What Christmas is in York is, I think, always rather pretty. So as we're here at Cathy Wolfhart, now the good thing about Cathy is, of course, is they spend all year celebrating Christmas. So when Christmas finally comes along, they'd probably be a bit miffed that everyone else wants to get in on the act. But of course, they've got something of a head start. And I would say, going back to our sort of traditions, almost everything you're looking at in this shop window is from the northwest European cultures, from the Viking, from the Saxon, from the Danish, from our trees to our St. Nicholas, of course, Christmas gift giver. We've got, of course, reindeers. You don't get many reindeers in England. And sleighs as well, kind of pulling on snow. Bears, you don't actually get bears in England. So, of course, consequently, not my idea of great food either, Polly. Much of what we really kind of luxuriate over now and just go a little bit sort of soft at the knees about, is really this kind of the Scandinavian, Northern European traditions, the kind of Christmas tree, again, Alpine, everything about ice and snow, snowmen, sleighs, Santa, the gift giver. they're all from that kind of particular sort of culture, but they've merged, of course, beautifully with everything. Also, adding to the Victoriana, we tend to then now view everything through the lens of a few kind of Victorian commercial artists that kind of brought this all together for us and created this sort of sense of what was sort of perfect. So I think that's our kind of Christmas aesthetic, isn't it? Is Scandinavia as funneled to us by the Victorians that they're kind of very, very good at kind of repackaging these ideas. So the lovely Billy there, Kathy Wolfhart. So David likes a KFC Christmas. I think it's what it was. He said, yeah, Terry, the order in advance, absolutely. So it's just interesting that that's part of their thing. It's not for us. So there's like Colonel Sanders statues that look like regular Colonel Sanders, but got a slight Asian look about them too. A bit of a sort of merge of the kind of the two. And they stand outside the shops and like a solid plastic and have all the kind of Christmas offers on. So there you go. Strange sort of tradition, but there you go. But as I say, it's hugely popular. And who are we to judge, ladies and gentlemen? If when we go to Japan, then we must do as the Japanese do. So you're going to be in Japan on Christmas Day. As Kendall, let me tell you about it. The traditional thing is to eat KFC. So unfortunately, the bin wagon's coming down, which is not very pretty. But let's focus in on these lovely Hotel de Chocolat. Yeah, the teddy bear shop. Absolutely, Hotel de Chocolat over there, and getting in down towards the sort of Christmas markets area down here. Anybody with any roots to Norway, so again we're going back into the sort of northern European Scandinavian, might know about the stories of hiding brooms. So this is a tradition for Christmas Eve, and there's kind of touch of supernatural about this, which is unusual. In lots of countries, the supernatural is associated with Christmas. The idea on Christmas Eve, a bit like the All Saints Night, is that the line between one world and the next, this life and the next, above ground and below underworld, is very, very thin. The spirits can kind of pass through. So consequently, they believe in Norway that this kind of local folklore is that witches and evil spirits roam freely on the night of Christmas Eve. And they're searching for brooms to steal for their midnight rides. So consequently, if you get a witch in your property, that's what they're after. They're after your broom. So to protect themselves, families hide their brooms and other cleaning tools, often adding another extra layer of precaution with festive prayers and traditions. Because at the end, after all, nothing spoils Christmas quicker than finding your broom broken in pieces at the foot of the tree, trashed by some joyriding witch. So it's a kind of spooky but light-hearted take on the tradition. Kind of nice blend of Christmas cheer and kind of ancient superstition. Again, not dissimilar, of course, to La Buffini, the Italian witch, who, of course, is so busy cleaning her house, she hasn't got time to go and visit the baby Jesus, so she's always portrayed with a broom as well. So La Buffina, the witch is not so much the broomstick there to fly on, but rather the cleaning implement of the house. So lots and lots of these stories are about cleaning, about preparation for the new year. So cleaning, imagine the spring cleaning is like another version, isn't it, right, of planting, of like almost burning the soil and kind of starting again. This idea of preparation and clearing the decks so you can start all over again for, a new year. So it's the same ideas that are just being presented in these different kind of narrative forms, using different ideas, different kind of motifs to present it. But essentially it's the same basic kind of story. So Norwegians believe Christmas coincides with the arrival of evil spirits and witches. So consequently, it's not surprising they hide the brooms before they go to sleep, which is kind of cute and sort of weird at the same time. So I think there is. I'm just going to see if we can see, because it's very close here, if it's of light, to go and have a look at the Nutcracker by City Screen. If it's of light, we're going to look at that, and then we'll head down to Christmas markets. I can keep teasing this, but I was going to take you to Betty's window. I want to do that as well. So we'll go down there and then come back, because there's no rules on these tours. And I don't know, is anybody on straight after me, or are we fixed in time? So we'll pass the ivy. They just make a nice effort. So the ivy here, we've got the snowman at the front, and it's looking very festive. So let's see if we can find the City Screen Independent Cinema is just down here. So Ukraine, and now this is a traditional thing, and I appreciate, obviously, at time of war, this may have changed, but again, this is something that you may have been told of by our wonderful guide, currently, of course, residing in Prague, as somebody kind of resettled away, Olga. That's about spiders' webs. And the fascination that they have in Christmas with spiders' webs. And of course, that this relates to the story of a kind of poor woman and a child that was so destitute they had nothing with which to decorate their home and their tree, but woke up in the morning and found that a spider had come in and created this wonderfully elaborate, sort of sparkling, frozen, shiny, Christmas web. And so in the Ukraine traditional, there's a lot decorated with artificial spider webs, which is kind of lovely. So there might be just enough light to see this one. So I'll say that relates to the story of the widow that couldn't afford. So I think that's a lovely idea. So again, you've got this idea of kind of glimmering sort of lights, and how even nature is attuned to the celebration of Christmas, which is lovely. So let's see. And I think, I thought I was timing this right. So there you go. It's almost like I planned this tour, because I think you'll find that this is a blue and white. I think that this is York's tribute to the enduring spirit of the people of Ukraine. So I'm delighted that I both brought you down here and timed that story. There you see. Sometimes serendipity strikes. I didn't plan that. Yeah, it's definitely in relation to Ukraine. It just so happened that was the next sort of cab off the rank. I didn't know which of the nutcrackers was down here, but isn't it fabulous that, unfortunately, another Christmas going by where people aren't at peace and are scattered around the world far from their homeland and their loved ones. Let's hope by next Christmas that is resolved one way or another. So, let's head down, and always a highlight for me this time of year is going to look in the Betty's window, because if anybody does Christmas, it is Betty's of York. And Betty's of Yorkshire, rather than Betty's of York. But Betty's, of course, mainstay in York. Lovely cafe. But also, just important, is a kind of food shop. And thank you so much to Linda last year, who actually sent me some Betty's food, which was absolutely glorious. So my enduring thanks for that. We were in the Betty's store at Castle Howard yesterday, and which was very lovely. But this one is kind of much bigger. And they pride themselves, of course, on the shop windows. And the thing with Betty's is, as you all know now, most of you have been on these tours with me time again, is with Betty's it's about presentation. I mean, the food is superb. That always goes without saying. Betty's is a byword of quality. But it's also about making things just look wonderful and festive. And the packaging, so you can guarantee that everything they do is just linked with a real quality and a class and a kind of commitment to enjoying. Oh, look at that! We've got the light of the snowflakes coming down there on the building, which is lovely. It's going to drop Susan off in Betty's. We'll pick you up later. When should we pick you up? Later on the tour or New Year? When are we getting you, Susan? Let's see if we can get you a bed. A bed in Betty's. Just by the mansion house. And Harker's the tree. Back to the ivy. So we're just on a bit of a loop back there, so we could take you to see that gentleman over there, the nutcracker. We've seen about 3 or 4. Now, I think, of the nutcracker, so we're not doing too bad. But as I say, as you can see, that one wasn't illuminated. Sorry, beg pardon. That one wasn't illuminated, so consequently, if they're not an area that's got much by which of natural light, then consequently, we may struggle. So isn't that pretty? Look at that. I'll just give us a minute, just take that in. And York, of course, is beautiful all year round. We all know that. But we don't have to do Christmas nicely, I think. If people that come here at Christmas, they're really disappointed. There's perhaps a criticism at times that the streets are too busy. Now, it's pretty busy now. This is a Monday. So imagine what this is like, on Saturday. And imagine what it's like the last Saturday before Christmas. You're really talking solid, wall-to-wall people. But heck, it's Christmas. It's about getting together and coming together. So, and it's great to see that businesses are kind of flourishing, doing well, selling, and so forth. And none more so, of course, than Betty's, as I say, who you can almost taste Christmas, I think, with Betty's. So let's go and have a look at their window. Let's see what they've done this year. It's the first time I've been in York for ages, so I'm seeing this for the first time with you. And everything, of course, is handmade. And look at that. Isn't that absolutely delightful? We have a Betty's Cosmetic, and you can see the marzipan icing here has made up the tree. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm not quite sure how they've done this, whether they've kind of had some kind of frame to put it on, or this is just gingerbread that's been baked and all kind of moulded and sort of sat inside. But it looks incredible, and the marzipan and the icing has been done with such skill and finesse. It's just beautiful and sort of so cosy. You just want to kind of go into the bakery, another one of the marzipan trees, isn't it? There, and who isn't that just an absolute delight? I'm not sure you get snow on the roof of a bakery, because surely it'd be a lot of hot coming through the chimney, wouldn't it? But talking about the chimney, of course, who's up here? None other than Santa. He looks a bit stuck. Maybe he's been eating too many fat rascals, and he's found himself wedged in the chimney there. But hopefully, by the new year, he'll be out. The door is wonderful, isn't it? They're absolutely delightful, Susan. So just going to pon over here, and you can see, obviously, a real Christmas tree now, but edible decorations that are hanging upon it, which are absolutely delightful. And there are various hampers and Christmas puddings and various sticky toffee puddings and all the kind of lovely things that, let's be honest, we all love just eating fat food, don't we, at Christmas? And worrying about New Year. Lovely jelly fruits over there. It's the stuff of legend for greedy boys like me that they just love to tuck in over the Christmas period as they hang the diet. You're going to have what I want and be happy. And you're rarely unhappy when it comes to Betty. So there's some York shortbread. We've got little Christmas puds over here. A cranberry and orange loaf cake with a wonderful Santa ginger man there. And some fondant fancies. A variety of top different kind of mince pies over there. And what do we got? A Christmas fruit cake. And fat rascals. Christmas stollen. So, apologies if that's enough you drooling now. You're a human after all. But if you're able to scan on it, do bring it up on your screen. Have a look at the Magical Craft Bakery inside. And as and when you come to York, do of course have a trip to Fabulous Betty's. And in the meantime, of course, check them out online and see if they mail to a place near you. I promise you won't be disappointed. And onwards and upwards. A lovely array of goodies. It is very special indeed. So let me just take a drink and we'll head down into the markets and have a look. So has anybody trying to look at? Am I being followed by anybody? I don't mean that somebody behind me, but I mean, is there anybody on the calendar that I'm going to be sort of crossing over, or we are to stay on for a bit? Because I think I've got 20 minutes left, but I'd probably like to do a little bit longer. But I won't if it's going to really interrupt you and you have plans to be elsewhere. Yes, I think we'll all have one of each of those. They are jolly nice. So we're in Davygate now, one of York's less lovely streets, but a useful link to. There's actually a fabulous building here. This one just coming in the middle out, it's Hobbs. It used to be Liberty's. If anybody remembers in the old days, the cafe upstairs is beautiful. Liberty Cafe, Liberty the fabulous fabrics. And that was a wonderful cafe upstairs. I don't know if the shop actually has it upstairs now. But it's like Chicago Mike is the store after me. Okay, well, obviously if people need to dash off, whatever that word is, then of course you can do so. But the beauty, of course, is you can play catch-up on YouTube. So let's go and have a look now into the markets, and we'll see what's what, who's doing what, and I'm not sure if we've talked about anybody. Another kind of interesting thing, has everybody come across the... this one's from Guatemala now. So I was going to talk about Mexico, but I've forgotten the name of the place. I'm not going to. I'll talk about Guatemala. And it's about Boone and the Devil, because that's what I was talking about just before we kind of broke off to go and look at Betty's, or was it to the Ukrainian thing? Was this idea of kind of clearing the ground? So in Guatemala, cleanliness is next to godliness. And again, you talk about Catholic countries, now in kind of Central America, isn't it? And the locals believe that the devil and other spirits live in the dark, dirty corners of your home. So as the holiday season begins, there's a fire tradition on December the 7th, and they call it La Quema del Diablo, or the burning of the devil. And what happens is that in the kind of the days and weeks preceding it, families clean their homes, they gather all the trash up, they put it in a big pile, and then they stick an effigy of a devil on top, and basically set it on fire. And it's a symbolic cleansing to ward off evil spirits. So using fire, goodness me, that is an enormous dog. So again, this idea of using the pre-Christmas period to be a symbol of health and prosperity, but also protection. So we've got kind of health and prosperity, we've got protection from evil spirits, and we've also kind of got this idea of kind of harvest and so forth. So all kind of coming together. So what the idea in the Guatemalans is they're trying to burn all the bad stuff from the previous year, so they get to start the new year afresh, which is kind of nice, isn't it? So again, not dissimilar, of course, to our New Year resolutions, how we're going to be better, which comes from promises made to Janus, the Roman god, who of course would look backwards and forwards so he could remember what resolution she'd made the previous year. So it all sort of seems to be sort of thematically linked. So let's have a wander down. I don't want to get in people's way of that kind of trading. It's probably a bit too busy to be chatting. We might come a bit earlier in the day and have a bit of a chatty tour before it's all finished. But let's have a look at the stuff. So again, I was in Newcastle a few weeks ago, and it strikes me that a lot of things are very similar. It seems that crumble is very, very hot these days. Now, I mean, not quite literally hot for the thing. See, it's steamy. But it seems to be the kind of go-to Christmassy snack. Everyone's got it in Leeds as well. Everybody wants a bowl of fruity crumble for Christmas. So as you walk around the markets, that seems to be this year's kind of a choice, bowl of choice. Wasn't aware of it previously, but it just seemed that crumble has become de rigueur for Christmas. Lovely lanterns there. So Herbie likes a hot chocolate with Baileys. So we've all got our little kind of Christmas traditions, right? It's sort of psychedelic. This one kind of rainbow sort of names, but always sort of characterised by lots and lots of colour. So pork scratch, we just talked about Christmas hams, weren't we? Christmas pigs, the Scandies. Here we've got like a real pork scratchies. So it's amazing that even without probably necessarily realising it, that these retailers have come together each independently, but in so many ways reflecting, the entirety of this kind of huge mix of cultural references, historical sort of traditions and sources for Christmas. Of course, alcohol being a huge one. And often at this time you see things like mead and things you wouldn't see at all the times of the year, called Viking drinks. So again, it's not just simply about kind of what you drink during the year. It's then drinking things that you wouldn't drink at other times, isn't it? So there's something about Christmas that makes us want to be a bit more adventurous in what we try. So here's a gentleman actually here. Hello there.
Hello there, how are we doing?
We're doing good actually. We're doing good. What are we selling?
We're a local-based distillery based in between Malton and Driffield.
Yep. Malton Driffield, yep.
Yeah, and we're here on the market. We started the market on the 16th of November.
Yep.
We're here till the 22nd of December.
So Driffield, East Yorkshire, so what, 20 miles or so east of York?
Yeah, 15 miles east of York.
15 miles east.
So a local business here with all of our local liqueurs.
Fantastic. And so just talk us through what you're making.
We started with the raspberry gin.
Yep.
Then we do the slow gin.
Slow gin.
Elderflower gin. We also do port as well, which
Yeah.
is one of our best sellers this year. We do a slow port and a Damson port. And our Damson port with 3 gold stars, the Great Taste Awards. It's a real highly recommended one to try.
So for the benefit of our American visitors on here, these are very traditional English drinks, putting the fruit in there, yeah?
Yeah, very traditional. Our slow gin is a very British drink that has been around for absolutely years.
Yeah.
They grow on hedgerow. So back in 2006, we planted about 20 miles of hedgerow around Raysthorpe, and that's where we get our berries from for our liqueur. So let's try some.
Yeah, I'd love to. And that's something typically people would have done at home, isn't it, in years gone by that have collected up this bounty and...
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so just try some.
Wow.
So it's quite a deep, rich colour, and that's just the colour of the berries. And then we sit in the tanks for up to a year and a half. Then we take the slows out of the tanks.
So what is a slow then? Is it like a berry or...?
It is like it's like a berry. Do you see on the picture on there? That's what it looks like. Slow gin.
So I'm going to give you a sense of...
That's
So
very like that.
it's quite... There's a sweetness on there,
Yeah.
but also it's got a warmth sort of comes
Yes,
through. A lot of fruitiness comes through. But it doesn't... It's quite dry as well. It's not sort of sticky like a liqueur is sometimes. You know what I mean? So actually, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
It's a drink on its own, or you can put it with prosecco or
Prosecco?
champagne or lemonade.
Have you got a website there? Then have we got a link that your friends can just?
So we've got racethorpemanor.com.
So Racethorpe Manor.
Yeah, do next day delivery as well on all that. So
Thank you. And you're in a good market.
we certainly are. We're here 22nd of December.
Thank you very much. Happy Christmas. Bye bye.
Cheers.
So there we go. That certainly put warmth across my chest, which is lovely. And as ever, so yeah, Slow's a sort of wild plum grows a blackthorn. Thank you, David, for adding that sort of extra bit of colour context in there. Always nice to find people that want to speak to us, but never want to intrude while they're doing business. So chili jams, all sorts of ways of keeping warm this Christmas, and of course one of those is a bit of chili heat, which is a little more traditional now, of course. Mulled wine, hot chocolate, Baileys. So again, we've just got this kind of blend, haven't we, now, of the old, the new, the indigenous, the imported, the hybrids, the uber traditional. You know, it's all just, it comes together and it just sort of works nicely. And I must say, this is a lovely day to come Monday, because obviously it's busy enough for the atmosphere, but it's not too intense, because obviously for a lot of people, these markets can get overwhelming, really. I know for a lot of people, just the thought of coming into the crowd. So if you are in the area of York, then what a great time to be coming. So end of the day, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is the time where you can experience the pleasure of the market without all that kind of hustle and bustle, but still with enough environment and enough kind of atmosphere, as you might say, to enjoy. So let's kind of just walk down and just see what we've got. So let's have a look at what other Christmas stories we've got. So we've also got a story from Colorado. So I don't know if we've got any Americans on from anywhere near that part of the world, Colorado. And I heard about Las Posadas. It's a cherished kind of 9-night celebration that begins on December the 16th and culminates on Christmas Eve. And it reenacts Mary and Joseph's search for shelter in Bethlehem. Has anybody come across this? It's the York Gin sort of pop-up store. And the tradition of Posadas symbolises their kind of quest for a place to stay before the birth of Jesus. It's deeply rooted in Mexican culture and widely celebrated across Latin America. And of course, you've now got obviously a diaspora of Mexicans across particularly the sort of southern states of the United States. So particularly in Colorado, it is something that is kind of celebrated. But presumably you'd find that if you went looking all the way across the south. They kind of preserve this meaningful tradition. And on the final night, the participants bring the observance to life with kind of vibrant processions. So children and adults will dress as Mary and Joseph and the shepherds, the angels and biblical figures, and they'll go from house to house. And at each stop they sing traditional songs requesting shelter, only to be turned away until they reach their final home or church that symbolically welcomes them in. And it concludes with prayers and songs and singing and food and kind of nice things, pinatas. Pinatas, that's the word I was looking for earlier, pinatas. There's a very similar thing actually in, again, Orthodox Catholicism now, what they call the Feast of the Holy Innocents, which is where children, particularly choir boys, young boys, would go from house to house singing. And this was particularly in and around the December the 28th, the Feast of the Holy Innocents, which commemorated the slaughter of all the infants, by King Herod. He ordered all the kind of boys up to the age of 2 to be killed. So the Feast of Holy Innocents commemorates that in the Catholic faith. And on this evening, young boys, the choir boys, would go from home to home, singing and blessing the households. So it's kind of like a forerunner, really, of kind of carol singing. So again, it's a similar thing, completely different in terms of the way it's described, if you like, and the theoretical basis as to why you've got people going from door to door. But in essence, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's the going from door to door, celebrating the coming, the birth of Jesus, and celebrating, with nice things to eat and drink. So again, it's these sort of patterns of repetition over and over. Dower. Oh, Cheryl, living in Colorado. I've heard of it, but never participated. There we are. Thanks, Cheryl. I wasn't, as you say, I just kind of dig deep into my books. I've got so many books over the years now because people know that I'm into Christmas. So they buy me stuff. So I've kind of got all these reference books and different Christmas cookbooks. And everybody loves to hear a bit about Christmas. So, you've got all these source materials. So I just dig in and find some sort of stuff. And there's another I've looked up for America. And I don't know if I've seen this written down, not pronounced. So I couldn't tell you whether it's pronounced Tomt or Tomty or Tomter, but it's Delaware. If we've got anybody from Delaware or anybody from the Eastern Seaboard, or Linda might know about this. And Christmas Eve there coincides with a kind of playful and slightly mystical tradition rooted in Scandinavian folklore. So obviously this now is about emigration, isn't it, from Northwest Europe into the Eastern Seaboard states. And it's about leaving milk out for the mischievous Tomty spirits. So the Tomty, also known as the Nissa, the little people, so like the elves, the dwarves, yeah, the Nissa, and the people that in the Viking mythology bring the presents, the little people. So the Tomty are related to them. And they're kind of mythical creatures that thought to guard farmsteads and bring good fortune. Again, linked to farms. Farms, the harvest, production, good luck. It's a different culture, but essentially it's just a retread. It's the same story being told over. But they're also known that they can be rather vengeful if they don't get their own way. And so, consequently, we've, you have to sort of, keep them happy. Make sure they're properly respected than these little people. So according to legend, offering them milk or porridge on Christmas Eve will appease the Tomty, the Tomt, ensuring they remain protective and don't cause mischief. And so, of course, as I say, this is rooted in ancient Scandinavian customs. It's found its way into Delaware's holiday celebrations, where families delight in keeping the Tomty sort of satisfied. So I guess it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that wherever you've got, a population that's kind of come in, is to what degree then that's kind of embraced, by other, I won't say indigenous, because obviously America's, the US is strange, isn't it, because no one was really from there for the most part, from the white European settlers. But it's interesting which bits are being kind of cherished and which bits are kind of marginalised, isn't it, as you might say, as foreign and alien and so forth. So I'd be interested to know, thank you, I've got my microphone, yes, Sue, if anybody is from or near to or has visited Delaware and has come across this particular tradition of the milk. And milk, of course, being used to make cheese. And we've got a cheese stall over here. I say everyone's doing good business today, so this is why I'm not kind of going into the stalls, because what I don't do is hold people up from selling. What was unusual about that guy is I hit on him right at the minute there was nobody else there. So we had a kind of quick word as we were going around. It's best for me to come earlier in the afternoon. So I may come back next week and do one just before Christmas, a chatty tour, and get you in the proper mood for Christmas. We'll try and get as many freebies as we can. Well, Mitzi, can you tell me, can you write Tomt then, or Tomties, kind of phonetically, like as in Tom? I think we can guess T-O-M, but is it Tays like T-A-Y-S, Tom Tay, or is it Tomt, so Tom T? How do you pronounce it? Let's listen to your the expert on this from Mitzi to put us straight on the best. Oh, look at these! These are fabulous. I love these. So I think you've been taking mind-altering drugs, because if you have, give you a fair warning that these are quite. I don't know how strong your painkillers are. Hopefully not the mind-altering variety, but there we go. Tomty, thank you very much. See, that is all the benefit, you see, of having your locals on. So, Czech Republic. Have anybody check links? Obviously, again, we could tweet to Olga about this, being based in Prague. In the Czech Republic, they have a tradition that blends kind of folklore with festive joy. And one of the iconic customs is the shoe toss, and the shoe toss is a traditional thing for single young women. Obviously, this is now going to play into the kind of the whole, the most important thing for women is getting married. So I apologise about that. Obviously, other views are available regarding marriage. But the culture there is that young women will throw a shoe over their shoulder in a hope to predict their marital future. And if the shoe lands pointed towards the door, it's believed they'll get married within a year. They'll kind of go out celebrating, and the hope that their destiny then is to meet and marry the person of their dreams. So within a year. So that's another one of the interesting ones. Ever got anybody on from Pinata? Sorry, yeah. Thank you, Polly. Thank you for keeping me on my toes. Yeah. It's more my brain at times works too fast for my tongue. I didn't know it was Pinata, but it's kind of oh yes, that's what it is. And my brain, my mouth is speaking before my brain has sort of fully got into gear. So let's around about 5 o'clock, aren't we? So we're coming to the end. So let's just tell us a couple more. And we're going to go from Newfoundland. I don't know if we've got anybody from that part of the world. Thank you, Anne. But in Canada, Newfoundland, they kind of have this quirky tradition called mummering. And participants, known as mummers, dress up in elaborate disguises featuring, excuse me, mishmash clothing and kind of whimsical accessories and masks and veils, and they're all designed to obscure the identities and to add an air of mystery to the festivities. And it's rooted in English and old Irish customs. So mummers is a very, very old kind of medieval thing, transforming the Christmas season into a playful and communal celebration. So of course this is positive, whereas of course Samhain, from the same kind of Irish roots, done at Halloween, is actually about protecting yourself from spirits and that would inhabit you. So it just shows it's kind of contextual, doesn't it? At one time of the year it's playful and in good spirits. Another time of year it's about guarding yourself against possession. So disguised mummers will visit neighbours' homes during the 12 days of Christmas, performing songs, kind of dances, do skits, while hosts attempt to guess their identities. So there's a sense of, who is it who's come to call? So, that part of it is just the joy of disguise, really, and costumes and dressing up. So if you've got fancy dress at Christmas, if that's been a kind of part of your Christmas, again, it's got its roots all the way back in these medieval cultures, very, very early old world cultures. But of course, because so much of North America was settled by people from kind of European nations, it's perhaps not surprising that in various sort of corners of the continent, you've got these kind of surviving parts. So in Newfoundland, the mummers is a tradition that has hung on and continued. So we're going down Coppergate because I want to finish off, if we can. I'm assuming the wishing tree is there for this year, so we're going to our first call, the wishing tree. We'll be finished in about 5 minutes, so just to give you kind of time check. If you were thinking of staying with us, that'd be great. And Tomter, not Tom T. Oh, okay. Well, I think, hopefully we all know what we're sort of talking about now. We're on the same sort of page. I say the Nissa, the yellow Nissa, Christmas man, of course in Scandinavian, it's the same kind of idea. So this is where we often through the year we have a look at the umbrellas, that are hanging down. Oh, by the way, if the host guesses sort of correctly, then what happens is the mummer sort of removes their disguise, and if not, the fun continues. And they hand out sort of small treats. So again, food, drinks, and candy. So not again similar, of course, to Trick or Treat, or the Carol Singers, or the Feast of Holy Innocents, or all these things, all sort of limited by come to the door, provide a bit of fun, a bit of mischief, a bit of Christmas cheer, and be rewarded by nice things to eat and drink. So again, just a very familiar pattern. It's kind of forming really about the way we celebrate the world over. And I think that's what's so lovely about Christmas to me, is not that it's one thing or another, it's everything. And it's equally valid whether it is a deeply sacred time for you to celebrate, the coming of our Lord, or, it is just a completely bit of fun commerciality and you eat KFC. It doesn't matter. It's all valid. And what's wonderful is they're all doing it at the same time around the world. And in this sort of time of terrible division that we have, the fact that we've got something that unifies us, that you can hurl accusations about cynical, is over commercialised, and it's this, it's that, and it's all true. But equally, wherever it is, it engenders smiles, generosity of spirit, kindness, gift giving, a bit of selflessness. Normal service resumes in January, and for those that have got Mr. Trump coming in January, boy, is that going to be, Groundhog Day, unfortunately for you. But for the most part, there's something, isn't there, about Christmas. Maybe it's rooted on our sort of Dickens stories, this idea of kind of belief that we can be better people at this time of year. But there's something very special, I think, about Christmas. And so we shouldn't we get too cynical. It's very easy to get too sniffy about it. And that would be a shame, because I do believe that Christmas has got an awful lot to offer to all of us in one way, shape or form. And so here we are, last couple of minutes. Should take us up past the castle. So in Finland, so I don't know if you're going to be on here with Finnish roots or family heritage. There's a cherished tradition of saunas at Christmas. Now, of course, in Finland, you've got the natural, in Iceland, these hot geysers coming to the surface, haven't you? So it's not greatly surprising that you're going to, the feature their natural landscape, will be a part of their Christmas traditions. So they kind of come together for sauna gatherings. It's a real integral part of the Finnish culture and holiday celebrations. So the sauna is a kind of sacred space, and it becomes a kind of tranquil haven where families come together to unwind, cleanse, and to reflect. And the practice is deeply rooted in Finnish history, where the sauna is long been associated with physical and spiritual well-being. So again, this idea of mending, of cleansing, it's the same idea, isn't it? Before Christmas, getting all the muck and the tension from your body, right? Expelling it, being reborn, kind of physically. It's a physical and mental and spiritual kind of well-being. On Christmas Eve, many families there will heat the saunas. They create this kind of peaceful atmosphere. They'll light candles, have kind of soft, warm lighting, and it's seen as a way of purifying the body and mind before the festivities begin. So, a bit like, I suppose, centuries ago, the monks of Advent, would go on a fast. I'm just going to bread and water to purify their bodies before the great feast of Christmas. And Christmastide, of course, in those days went on until February. It wasn't just the sort of 12 days. But this idea of purifying first, expunging. So whether that's deep cleaning your house, whether it's burning your garbage, whether it's fasting, whether it is sauna and getting it all out from your pores, it seems to be, doesn't it, this idea of purging before this idea of renewal and rebirth. And our rebirth, of course, is not simply physically, but also in our hopes and our dreams. And so how lovely to bring you for the very first time in 2024 to our wishing tree that I believe now is probably the fourth year maybe we've been doing this together, coming here to the tree. And of course the tree is a plain, ordinary oak tree that stands here. But once a year, for a few months, it becomes a wishing tree. And it encourages us to stand just a moment or two in contemplation, to be thankful, but also to think about the things that we hope, whether we've perhaps got friends or relatives or ourselves, or perhaps better, so Robin, we hope for her knee obviously to be transformative after that surgery. That should be better. We hope, of course, that Sue's family can take and cherish the memories. Of course, they'll miss their mum terribly this Christmas, but with love, of course, comes loss. So let's just take a minute. I'm going to be quiet, and I will take a minute by the wishing tree to reflect on community, love, this time of year, and everything we should be grateful for, but of course everything that we hope will happen in the year ahead. So I'm going to be quiet for 1 minute exactly. Thank you, everybody. It's been lovely to see you all here again in York. I don't want to hold anybody up that needs to be on your way to Chicago. So I'm going to say thank you so much, everybody, from York. And I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. So thank you and goodbye.